This courtroom erupts with tension as a man facing over $60,000 in embezzlement charges tries to challenge the law with some of the wildest legal arguments you'll ever see. Claiming the court is a private corporation and insisting that his name in all caps refers to a dead entity, he attempts the classic sovereign citizen defense. But the judge isn't having it. She fires back with firm, sharp, and even humorous responses that leave no room for doubt. She quickly clarifies that the serious charges against him carry up to 25 years in prison, 15 years for embezzlement and 10 years for using a computer to commit a crime. When he claims the court has a financial stake in his conviction, she puts him straight, explaining that judges are state employees with fixed salaries and the court doesn't profit from cases. Despite his attempts to represent himself, the judge advises him to trust his public defender, highlighting the importance of legal expertise. She even humorously notes that if he were truly dead, the case would be dismissed, but since he's standing there, the court has full jurisdiction. The hearing wraps up with the judge giving him more time to decide about self-representation and setting a new date, leaving viewers with a mix of legal education, drama, and courtroom wit.
So, Mr. Dagger-Margosian, how do you wish to proceed?
Well, Your Honor, I am aware that Mr. Musgrove wants to present information to the court. I'm happy to be standby counsel if he wants to represent himself. Obviously, this court would have to go through the colloquy of that, but obviously it's Mr. Musgrove's legal right to at least ask the court to do that. So I'm here to observe at this point.
All right. So, Mr. Musgrove, when you were at the bench or up at the podium before, you said that you were appearing on behalf of yourself. So, Mr. Musgrove, are you asking to no longer have counsel represent you?
Well, what I'm understanding is that the courts is a private for-profit.
So, Mr. Musgrove, I know where you're going with this, and none of that is valid. None of that is law.
I'm not the all caps name. Of course,
none of that is valid. None of that is law. You are standing in my courtroom. I have jurisdiction over you. So
I tried to file paperwork with the clerk's office ahead of time so that you would have time to review it, and they denied me.
I know what you're talking about. None of that is valid under the law of the state of Michigan or the Constitution of the United States.
What do you mean it is?
No.
The Supreme Court says it is.
What does it say it is?
The Supreme Court says that if we were at the age of 18, we were supposed to claim our minor status.
Nope, not valid.
Okay.
So here's what I would say to you. Mr. Dagger-Margosian is, like most of our public defenders, exceptional attorneys and very well versed in the law and very experienced. He gives legal advice. You may not like the legal advice, but it's usually good advice. I've never had anyone from the public defender's office not wholeheartedly try to represent their clients. So what you are talking about is not valid, and it is not going to get you out of this case. You're not going to be able to say all those things because it's not valid.
Everyone involved in this court case has a financial interest in the case. I
don't have a financial interest in your case. I get paid by the state of Michigan, whether you plead, whether it gets dismissed. I don't make any money off you. We have budgets. The court system is not a profit generating revenue. We are here to represent people so that people who are charged with crimes are protected. People who are victims of crimes are protected. And that's why we have.
In order for there to be a crime, there has to be a victim. There is no.
Well, there is a victim in this case.
The victim would be the company.
You are charged.
I can't face
Ashley, just hold on. So your crime that you are charged with, which you are innocent as of this time, let me grab the right file, is failure. Oh, this is let me see. This is an embezzlement charge. So you are charged in count one with embezzlement 50,000 or more, but less than 100,000. that being an agent, servant, or employee of Hardwoods of Michigan Industries did convert to your own use without the consent of your employer or principal, industrial tools and equipment in the amount of $68,938.40 or money or equipment. And that's a 15-year felony. So if you are found guilty by a jury, you can go to prison for charged in count 2 with using a computer to commit a crime. To facilitate the charge in count 1, that carries a maximum penalty of up to 10 years in prison. And the way the statute's set up, I can actually stack those possibly. So you potentially could be looking at up to 25 years in prison. So the victim that's alleged in this would be that business.
Right, and I can't face that accuser because that business can't get on the stand for me to ask questions, and a third party.
But their
can't stand
representative
it.
can. Yes, they can.
They
Yes, they
can?
can. Yes, they
Okay.
can. So I have 189,000 of student loan debt that was forgiven to be a lawyer. You do not. And Mr. Dagger Margosian, Mr. Isaac Sneed, all of the attorneys here went to law school to know the law, and their job is to advise you of the law. So
Yeah,
yes,
but
they
they're
can.
going-
Yes,
They're
you
going
can
by
be charged.
everything, all the
can't-
laws and statutes that you guys go by
Are
are
legal.
for corporations. They're for fictitious.
Still a crime. Still a crime.
But I'm not a
Still a
fictitious
crime.
corporation, I'm a living person.
Yep, and that's why you're
Okay.
standing in front of me. If you were dead, the case would be dismissed.
Yeah, the all caps name is that.
That means nothing. That's not valid. It's
Okay.
not legal.
right.
So do you want to represent yourself or do you want to have an attorney to represent you?
I need some time to think.
Okay, so I'm gonna set this for another pretrial on March 20th at 8:30 in the morning. And Miss Adams, could I get a notice of hearing for Mr. Musgrove?
This courtroom is about to become a lesson in law, logic, and the limits of human imagination. A man charged with embezzling over $60,000 is standing before the court, not simply to defend himself, but to challenge reality itself, or at least the legal system as he perceives it. He claims that the court is a private corporation, that its authority is illegitimate, and that his name, written in all capital letters on legal documents, does not refer to him, the living, breathing individual in front of the judge, but instead to a dead entity. At first, the courtroom is tense. Every eye is on him as he presents what he believes to be unassailable evidence that the court lacks jurisdiction. But the judge, experienced, calm, and precise, listens with patience. She allows him to speak, understanding that letting someone attempt to argue is part of the legal process, but she doesn't let him get away with it. With a mixture of authority, sharp wit, and clarity, she explains that if he were truly dead, there would be no case. But since he is standing right there, he is fully subject to the court's jurisdiction. The charges are severe. Embezzlement alone carries a 15-year felony, and using a computer to commit a crime adds another 10 years, totaling a potential 25-year sentence. These are not minor infractions. The judge emphasizes the seriousness, ensuring that neither the defendant nor anyone watching loses sight of the stakes. Yet despite this, he continues to challenge her authority with claims that are fantastical, convoluted, and almost entirely disconnected from law. He argues that the court has a financial interest in convicting him, implying that the judge would benefit personally from a guilty verdict. This is a classic sovereign citizen claim, one repeated in courts across the country. The judge addresses it immediately and decisively. She explains that judges are state employees with fixed salaries, that the court system does not generate profit, and that such arguments have no bearing on the proceedings. Every time he raises a claim, she dismantles it with logic and legal precision, demonstrating the futility of pseudo-legal theories. Even as the defendant insists on representing himself, the judge repeatedly advises him to rely on his public defender. Legal expertise, she explains, is essential in navigating complex proceedings. Attempting to replace knowledge, experience, and strategy with self-directed interpretation is not only ineffective, it can be dangerous. Every misstep could cost him years in prison, and she makes sure he understands the weight of every decision he makes. As the hearing continues, the defendant doubles down on his arguments. He claims that capitalization, punctuation, and technicalities somehow remove him from legal responsibility. He asserts that forms, signatures, and procedural requirements somehow invalidate the authority of the court. The judge listens, calmly, and responds with both humor and clarity. She explains, in terms that anyone, even a viewer with no legal background, can understand, why none of these arguments hold water. The law is structured to prevent precisely this kind of misinterpretation from undermining justice. At multiple points, the judge returns to the facts. Embezzlement is not a theoretical offense, it has real victims, real consequences, and serious ramifications for both the defendant and the broader community. Using a computer to commit a crime compounds the severity, adding layers of technical investigation, evidence, and legal penalties. She ensures that the defendant, and anyone watching, understands that no argument about dead entities, private corporations, or capitalization can erase responsibility for actual crimes committed. The courtroom exchanges are intense. He asks questions, makes claims, and attempts to assert control over the process. She responds firmly, repeatedly steering the focus back to the law, to evidence, and to procedure. At one point, she humorously notes that if he were truly dead, the court would not be holding a hearing. This combination of wit and authority keeps the courtroom in order and underscores the absurdity of the arguments being made. The judge also uses these moments as educational opportunities. She explains the concept of jurisdiction, why it matters, and how it is determined. She discusses precedent, statutes, and the framework of Michigan law. Each rebuttal is not just a dismissal of the defendant's claims, it is a lesson in how the legal system functions, a reminder that law is grounded in logic, evidence, and societal agreements rather than personal interpretation or online theories. As the hearing progresses, it becomes evident that the defendant is attempting to delay the proceedings. He repeats the same arguments, questions every ruling, and challenges every point of procedure. The judge, recognizing the pattern, addresses it directly but fairly. She grants him additional time to make decisions, particularly regarding whether he wishes to represent himself, setting clear boundaries while ensuring the process continues. The tension in the courtroom ebbs and flows. Moments of absurdity from the defendant contrast sharply with the measured, precise responses from the judge. For viewer, it becomes a real-time illustration of the collision between fantasy and reality, between misunderstanding and legal structure. Every claim about financial interest, name capitalization, and corporate court jurisdiction is methodically dismantled, showing why the law cannot be subverted by imagination alone. Repeatedly, the judge emphasizes responsibility. Ignorance, misunderstanding, or unconventional theories are not defenses. The law applies equally to everyone. No amount of creative thinking can override statutes, evidence, or procedure. Each interaction is both dramatic and instructive, highlighting the seriousness of the charges while showcasing the skill and composure required to maintain order in a courtroom. The hearing also reveals human psychology. The defendant's insistence on pseudo-legal arguments reflects a desire to control a situation where he has little control. The judge's responses demonstrate how authority, clarity, and knowledge can counteract confusion and misdirection. For viewer, it is both fascinating and educational, a study in strategy, persuasion, and the limits of legal creativity. Even as the session moves toward its conclusion, the judge maintains control. She reiterates the severity of the charges, explains the consequences of each choice, and ensures that the defendant understands his options regarding legal representation. The hearing ends with a clear next step. A new court date is set, giving the defendant time to make an informed decision while keeping the process moving. Throughout the entire session, the courtroom drama serves as a lesson. It demonstrates how pseudo-legal theories clash with reality, how legal systems maintain authority, and how persistence in flawed arguments only prolongs exposure to real consequences. Every moment is tense, educational, and occasionally humorous, creating a narrative that is as captivating as it is informative. For anyone watching, this hearing is more than a courtroom spectacle. It is a lesson in law, logic, and human behavior. It shows the importance of respecting legal procedures, the dangers of ignoring expertise, and the limits of creative argumentation when faced with reality. From high-stakes embezzlement to wild legal theories, it is a courtroom showdown that blends tension, humor, and education, an unforgettable illustration of law in action. Even after this hearing concludes, the lessons remain. The law is structured, predictable, and precise. Sovereign citizen claims, pseudo-legal arguments, and technical tricks cannot substitute for responsibility or accountability. The judge's responses make this abundantly clear, providing not just a resolution to one case, but a demonstration of the principles that govern every court in the country. By the end, viewers are left with a profound understanding: the law is not negotiable. It is not a game. And no matter how creative or imaginative one may be, the legal system will always operate on facts, evidence, and precedent. The courtroom becomes a living classroom, showing the collision of fantasy and reality in real time, and leaving a lasting impression of authority, logic, and the ultimate power of law.